Alright, how's it going, everybody? This is Ismortah, and this evening is my board game session, and I have for you an ELEMANCERS November update. I know I'm a week late, but I was doing some important stuff for the Kickstarter build, which I'm going to talk more about, and I believe also had a convention at that time. Yes, so had some things going on, which I'll go into. But yes, what I have for you today is an update on what's happening with the project and this Kickstarter build I alluded to, and what's this convention stuff I'm talking about. So that is the plan. So this could be short and sweet, but I want it to be very informative because I want to provide you with what's happening with the project monthly since we're getting closer to the new Kickstarter launch, which is January 2020. The exact date has not been determined yet, but it will start sometime in January, is what I can reveal at this point. Largely just due to marketing, timing, and materials, so that you really want to have a crowd going into Kickstarter. Even though Kickstarter is a great place to get additional people, you really want to start off strong at the beginning of the campaign. And to reiterate from a week ago, I do have new content that I'm now streaming Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday at the same time, 7 p.m. PST. Just want to remind people that content's changed up a little bit. It's getting a little bit more broad, and I'm focusing on particular platforms. Now I have more content to have at my disposal. And also because now, since I'm having such a large portfolio of games that I go over in my Twitch, that I have less playlists. So you can just go to one playlist and get all sorts of content you can play around with and just have available to you when you're just have something on autoplay on like Twitch or YouTube, that you can just have content that's appropriate to whatever you're interested in all in one place, is the idea. And so I'm switching out to these four. I'm switching, like I said, to platforms. So I have Steam video games on Monday, console video games on Wednesday, which is anything that's not PC or mobile, so PS4 and Xbox One. Friday's going to be Blizzard video games because they have so much content and different types of content, and like 75% of it I do play a lot, that I want to have to be dedicated to its own day. And then, of course, board games on Sundays that I talk about game design, show you collections or sessions, or, of course, like today, ELEMANCERS. Alright, so before I get any further along, let me just check the Twitch feed to make sure audio is okay, and I'll get back with you. Alright, looks like it's good. That's one of the reasons, if you didn't notice, why I sort of do a little bit of talking before I get started to check. Just that way it's already loaded in Twitch, which just has a small delay, so I can check how it sounds. Alright, so it looks like we're good. Alright, so this is, the cover for ELEMANCERS, if not familiar. And it is a team-based game, 2 to 6 players. That you have two teams always scoring off each other. So you have the whole feel of fantasy and area control, as well as the feeling of you have people with you helping you out, but you're also trying to take out people that you're playing against. Alright, so in the news, what is happening? So I already have the update that you can read here at shadowbalancegames.com, which I also share with anyone else that's also subscribed. And so in this video, I'm just going to use this as a script to go through, that way you can follow along. And like I said, this can be short and sweet, but there's certain points I want to make sure I hit, and so you can follow along as I go. So it is that time again. See what's happening in the world of Shadow Balance Games, that is. Taha. Like I said, there are three main things that happened within the last month, from October of like the first week till now. It was convention heavy, consolidating feedback from the beta build from those conventions and my observations, as well as working on what I call the Game Master Companion. So what is all this stuff? So conventions. Over the course of the last month was convention season for me. I attended 3 conventions in that period of time. Big Bad Con and Gamehole Con were the board game conventions I attended, and demoed ELEMANCERS Light and Dark, and got great reception and feedback from that build. And so those conventions were actually the first time I attended each one, which is pretty cool, and I definitely want to go back. Both of which have only been around like between 5-ish years, so relatively new, just like Li's conventions, right when that renaissance of the board game industry hit. But especially like Gamehole Con, that was the largest convention I've ever attended. And that was just, it just had so much content. It's such a huge dealer room that, I mean, it was like you're at a supermarket for the board game hobby. It was pretty crazy, especially for role-playing games, I know, which is the biggest thing out there. Unbeknownst to me, if that's a word, unknown to me, let's use that, I also realized that Satine Phoenix was out there because, like I said, that convention was heavy role-playing games. I think they did a whole Twitch and role-playing game session at the convention as well. And at previous years, Matthew Mercer and God, the other guy's name that escapes me, who writes some novels, Patrick, were there as well. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Awesome convention. That's also where some of my family lives at, so it was a twofer. A lot of fun. As well as Gamehole Con, because that's local. That's just in the California area. The other convention that I hit up was Reno Pop Culture Con, and that's, as you can figure, is in Reno, and it was the first time that they had like a Comic-Con type convention in Reno. And it was so cool because I got to see some of my favorite celebrities of like all time, which is so cool, especially in the cartoon or sci-fi arenas. I got to see Tara Strong and Summer Glau and Charles Martinet. If you don't know, Tara Strong does the voices of Bubbles in Powerpuff Girls, Raven in Teen Titans, Harley Quinn, and many others. Summer Glau was the Terminator in Sarah Connor Chronicles, as well as River in Firefly. And then Charles is the voice of actually everything Mario, Luigi, God, the guy's name starts with W, is escaping me. Mario. It's like he's the one who's done all of the voices all these years. So that's pretty crazy. Actually, what I want to do right now is go back and show you some pics from those events. At the top, you have pics from Reno Pop Culture Con. Me getting some awesome photos. The middle one here is of Gamehole Con. Different groups of players checking out ELEMANCERS Light and Dark. And then at the bottom, Big Bad Con. A couple groups of players playing the game as well. It's like, it's super fun. It's like every other week I was going somewhere doing. It was a fun month. But in between these events, there was pretty much long weekends. I was also really busy working on some other stuff. One of which is the Kickstarter Build lock. So typically with builds, they work in this way. You typically there's a prototype build that you're just throwing out ideas for games and trying to see what type of mechanics could possibly make this come to life. Total prototype stage, pencil paper. Once you have something you think you want to roll with, then you move to an alpha build. And that's when you're starting to make representative art and how the game's going to flow and developing the core mechanics. And so in that build, you're testing does the game actually playable. The beta build, however, that's when you've gotten feedback from the alpha build, and now you have locked game mechanics, locked how you want to do art, and you're just getting polished feedback on little tweaks to make with the game to make it more user-friendly, better usability, more attractive, easier to understand. And so that's what I was testing at GameholeCon and Big Bad Con. I just got polished feedback, small changes to text, or graphical small changes, or things to make something more clear and understandable as far as the rules, like even like changing the order of certain sentences, which is great because I shouldn't get anything game breaking at that point, which I didn't, and it's just little things that can make it the game, putting the icing on the cake per se. And so the Kickstarter build is a lot to build. That's the build that you advertise in marketing, and that's the build that you're sharing during the Kickstarter. And so these final changes I've been working on, from my own analyzing the game data as well as getting that player feedback, polished feedback, is making those final changes for this last build, which I have finally completed this week. And now one of the things I'm trying to do is trying to see how to source the materials that I want to use for the build, as well as getting the Kickstarter build printed. But yeah, like I said at the bottom here, like it is funny though, like the more time I spend with this game, it just keeps getting better and better and better and better. I just want to make sure that what I'm doing is, a little bit of gold plating, sure, but just not doing feature creep. Because if you add new features, that's something they should be introduced during the alpha. And so now I'm just making stuff prettier and easier to use, but even that I have to get to the point that I have to say, okay, it's 90-95% of the way there. Now I have to commit, because I could still make small changes during these next 2 months, even during the Kickstarter. It just, you want the game to be polished enough that it looks like an amazing product, something that people want to back to mass produce. But I definitely have the right to still make changes to make it better, as even during the campaign, obviously. All right, another thing that I've been majorly working on between the conventions, especially after Arena Pop Culture Con, has been the Game Master Companion. So I've been spending all this time on the Kickstarter build, but what I also need to finish now is the auxiliary things, the game box and the rule book. So the game box is sort of a moot point because I already have the cover, as you see, and then the back just basically has marketing materials and legal mumbo jumbo, and that's stuff that I'll be working on in December, marketing stuff and so on and so forth. So the game box is done. I just some work I have to do, but the rule book, there's a certain way that I want to do it. So back in the day, rule books just had the rules. That's where the word rule book came from. But as games start getting more complex, it started being the one-stop shop for all information for the game, which is great that we have all information in one place. But the problem is now there's so much information that you need to even have an index to find it. My best example is King of Death Monster. It's designed as an art storybook, but at the same time also has rules to the game that are scattered everywhere. And it's great that they have definitions and index, but it's just like, do we really need all of that stuff in the same book? No. There have been companies like Fantasy Flight that have made 2 books. One book that has all of the information for the game, and another one that's Learn to Play. But the problem with that, even though it's been a step forward, is the Learn to Play doesn't tell you everything you need to know to play the game. It's a watered down version. So it's not guiding you, it's just making a simpler game that you say, well, next time play the real game. If you ask anybody that, they want to play the real game now. People would rather play the real game and not know all of the strategy than play a watered down version of the game, right? And it's still like you're not sure what book you should go to for what. Like if it's a rule, I should check the reference book, but the rules are how to play, so why is it in the how to play book? So it gets a little confusing. So what I wanted to do is only provide people information that they actually need to absorb. So you may have noticed in, I think I have a pick. One sec. Like this pick. You'll notice that beside each of the factions, the light faction, dark faction, you see a foldable reference card. I have a foldable reference card actually for every player. And that has all of the rules to the game, and it's double-sided. If you look at that reference card, you can absorb any of the rules you need to know for the game. And each of the different segments of the card where it folds is a different subject. So if you need to go to a particular subject, it's right there at your fingertips. So you can just collapse it, so that's all you see. That's why, for example, on one side of the reference sheet, well, it used to be called a reference card, is everything about how to play the game, except for battle, because all the battle stuff is on the opposite side. So when you're in battle, that's when you can look at that one side of the card, and if you're anything else, you can just go to a particular section on the opposite side. So, truncated version of this, the players already know how to play the game. They have the rules. The stuff that then the players don't have is, okay, well, what certain strategies I should be doing in the game? Or rules clarifications on, like, obscure things that could happen in the game. What does that mean and what do you do? Or how do you set up the game? How do you take down the game? All of those things, that's not things the player readily needs. The player needs to know how to play the game. All the other stuff should be imparted by the game master as those topics come up. And as you know, it's the game master, the person hosting the game, that explain and teaches people how to play the game. So you see this book that has all this other information should be geared toward the game master, not to the player. The players just need to be able to reference. That's why I call them reference cards. Particular part information as they need it to digest. But it's the game master's responsibility to not only drive the fun of the game and the different steps, but teach people how to play. And so that's why I've tailored it towards the Game Master Companion, the GMC. It's essentially a typical rule book, but the audience is the game master, not the player. So it's something that the game master can use to teach people how to play the game. So, for example, the segment in the book that says how to play the game, it doesn't have the nuanced information, particulars like the reference card, because that's why the reference card is there. It's more a graphical tutorial and guiding the game master on how to present the different rules of the game to make it digestible. What examples do you do? How do you talk about it? So it's a guide for the game master. The game master is the one who sets up the game and takes down the game. So if that's stuff only the game master needs to know. People look to the game master if they have a rules question. Again, it's for him. So really it's just a way for me to make the evolution that we see with this rule book just more digestible and appropriate for who needs particular information and when. And that's what that is in a nutshell. And so it's a lot of work and going back and grooming to see how it, not only how it reads, but how it's used by the game master. And so that's been a big chunk of work this last part of the month before this update, which I'm still working on polish as well. So so that's what I've been working on, the Game Master Companion, feedback from the beta builds, going to these conventions. So what's going to happen for this next month till like the first or second week of December? So the plan there is I am going to be working on polish for the GMC as well as the game box as I start marketing stuff, so that's probably be toward the tail end. I will also be outreaching for previews and live playthrough videos, so I can have an audience again to have an audience of people that are familiar with the game, as well as get people to hear about the game before the Kickstarter, as well as printing the Kickstarter build. I already have feedback, just got to create the latest version of the build. I'm also going to be doing blind testing, and that's basically with the Kickstarter build, seeing if people can use the reference sheet and the GMC without my input or guidance, and can they set up the game, can they play the game, and can they put away the game. So it's testing the functionality really of the GMC against the locked build of the game, which had some usability improvements, polish. And then finally, what I'll also be doing is, for this next month, is reaching out for quotes for mass production, for fulfillment, and shipping. So the difference between fulfillment and shipping: fulfillment is how I'm going to acquire information and who's going to do it, and setting up that business relationship, whereas shipping is the cost of taking the product to different regions of the world. And mass production is the cost to manufacture before it gets shipped. So for this next month, it's going to be a lot of outreach. Outreaching for blind testing, outreaching to get marketing started and people talking about the game, and outreaching to get pricing for different activities involved with Kickstarter. So that's the plan in a nutshell. I think my next update, let you know which guys is happening, will be probably the first or second week of December. But I have a lot of stuff to do before then, especially since I'm going to lose probably 3 or 4 days due to Thanksgiving holidays. So, but the good news is I don't have any more conventions for the rest of the year, so I have a lot of more time on the weekends that I can just pedal to the metal. Well, thanks for listening. I know it's been a info dump. And if you want to recap anything, you not only can rewatch this video, but you can go to shadowbalancegames.com in the news and for 11/17/19 see what's going on. So the next board game stream is going to be next Sunday, 7 p.m. PST, but there is a chance that that may not happen because I may be doing blind testing that weekend on that day. I don't know if I'm be doing it Saturday or Sunday. If I don't do blind testing on Sunday, then it's going to be me talking about some games in my collection, which I newly acquired that have not talked about yet, that I would like to review. It either be Fury of Dracula and or Formula D. Possibly also Captain Sonar. One of those 3 games. But that'll be the content that I'll start going into when I'm for these next few weeks before the next update during that session. The next stream, however, will be Monday, 7 p.m. PST during my Steam video game session, and that's going to be some more Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. I actually have 2 new decks that I had created. The last 2 currently at my disposal that I've made, and so I'll be sharing that with you for those of you that are interested in these Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks that I've been sharing. Well, that's all I got. Again, thanks for listening. Really excited that the game has come so far and looks so great, and I'm thrilled here shortly to share with you the Kickstarter build, as well as when I start rolling in some of these previews or live playthrough sessions of the game. Well, thanks for watching. Again, this is Ismortah. I'll catch you next time. Keep it shadow.